What if I told you there's an education system out there that doesn't just lead the world, it kind of breaks the scale? A system that seems to have totally cracked the code for academic success. Well, today, we're going to unpack the paradox of China's education system. We'll use a landmark report from the OECD to see what we can learn from its incredible achievements and, well, its hidden costs.
Okay, so take a look at this. These are the PISA scores from 2018, which is like the world championship for testing 15-year-olds on skills that matter. And as you can see, students from 4 key regions in China, they aren't just a little bit ahead in reading, math, and science, they are operating in a completely different league than the average of even other top-performing countries. It's kind of stunning.
But, and this is a really important but, let's be super clear. These mind-blowing scores don't represent all of China. Nope. They come from 4 of its most developed and wealthiest regions. That's Beijing, Shanghai, Jiangsu, and Zhejiang, or BSJZ for short. So this isn't a story about an entire country's system, it's really about its educational powerhouse regions.
So let's dive into our first section and really wrap our heads around the sheer scale of this educational shockwave.
And get this, it's not just that the average score is higher, it's about the depth of talent. In these Chinese regions, nearly 1 out of every 4 students is a top performer in reading. In other elite systems around the world, that number is closer to 1 in 8. The concentration of excellence is just on another level.
So you gotta ask, right? What is the secret sauce? How did they do it? What's the formula that's producing these, frankly, extraordinary results?
All right, let's get into it. Section 2. Let's try to break down this winning formula, at least as the OECD sees it.
Well, the report points to this really powerful mix of factors. It starts with a culture that just deeply, deeply values education. That's then built on a rock-solid foundation of a high-quality collaborative teaching force. And you support all that with a research-driven curriculum, and what do you get? You get what you see here. Incredibly orderly classrooms that are just laser-focused on learning.
And if you had to boil it all down to just one thing, the OECD report is crystal clear about it. It says that teacher quality is likely the strongest single factor. That's the bedrock. Everything else is built right on top of that.
And to see just how serious they are about quality, just look at how Shanghai evaluates its teachers. This isn't some simple once-a-year checklist. We're talking about a full 360-degree process. It's classroom observations, it's looking at student results, it's even teacher self-assessments. It's this constant, feedback-driven machine designed to make everyone better.
You can also measure this commitment in time. Teachers in Shanghai work, on average, over 45 hours a week. For perspective, that's nearly a full working day longer than the average teacher in other developed countries. It is a staggering level of dedication.
And here's the payoff for all that discipline and hard work. In a Shanghai classroom, a whopping 85% of class time is spent on actual teaching and learning. You compare that to the OECD average, where a lot more time gets eaten up just by keeping order. It's a system that is just optimized for instruction.
But all this intensity, it has to make you wonder, right? Is this actually sustainable in the long run? And what's the hidden price tag for all this achievement, especially for the students at the heart of it all?
And that brings us to the other side of this whole paradox. Let's talk about the cracks that start to appear in the system when you look a little closer.
Wow. I mean, this chart right here really tells the story, doesn't it? On one side, you've got those world-beating, off-the-charts reading scores. But right next to it, you see the cost. Students in these same regions report way lower life satisfaction than their peers in other high-performing countries. Academic excellence, it seems, comes at a very real cost to student well-being.
And we're not just talking about some abstract life satisfaction number. The data shows that 15-year-olds here are just more likely to report feeling miserable, worried, or sad than students in other top systems. It really seems like that high performance comes with a heavy emotional price tag.
Okay, another major challenge is equity. Even inside these incredibly wealthy regions, the performance gap between students in the cities and those in rural areas is huge. I mean, it's far, far larger than the average gap you'd see in other developed countries. Where you live still plays a massive role in the opportunities you get.
And then there's the sheer reality of the classroom. Get this, the average language class here has 42 students. 42!
Compare that to just 26 across the OECD. Can you even imagine being a teacher, or a student for that matter, in a classroom that packed? The pressure must be immense.
And the report flags other issues bubbling under the surface too. Things like underdeveloped early childhood education, and the fact that vocational tracks just aren't valued like academic ones are. All this leads to pretty high levels of school segregation based on a family's background, and it leaves teachers feeling like they're just not prepared to handle that kind of diversity in the classroom.
So all of this, it puts the entire system at this fascinating crossroads. It's kind of caught between its current, undeniable success and the real needs of the future.
And this, right here, really gets to the heart of the teaching style. Teachers there are absolute masters of what's called clarity of instruction, the art of explaining complex things directly and effectively. But the system relies way less on things like project-based or task-based learning, and those are the very methods we know foster modern skills like creativity and collaboration.
And this brings us to the core dilemma, and it's captured perfectly in this quote from the OECD's Andreas Schleicher. Success can make you conservative, risk-averse, even complacent. The very things that made you great today might be the exact things that hold you back tomorrow.
So we end with this huge question. Can a system that has been perfected, absolutely optimized for today's standards of excellence, find the flexibility and the agility it needs to innovate for a future that is, by its very nature, uncertain? That is the paradox, and that is the challenge that lies right at the heart of China's incredible education.